So that's a tough job to do right now.
A really tough job. I'm not sure you want it right now. But are there fresh facts that we're looking at now about what has happened in the first 100 days of the coronavirus in Nigeria?
Yeah, there are several ways we could look at the first 100 days, but perhaps the most accurate is to look at it from three perspectives. The first is to look at the number of samples that have been tested. The second is to look at the number of cases that have been recorded in the first 100 days. And finally, perhaps the most accurate thing will be to look at the survival rate. Some other people choose to call it the death rate. So tonight, I'd like us to, first of all, take a look at the journey to 100 days. Let's take a look at that. And here's what you notice. Yes, we've seen 12,233 cases in the first 100 days, but from the evidence we have, the first 50 days, we recorded only 542 cases. So as of the 18th of April, we had recorded only 542 cases. Between day 51 and now we're on day 101, we've recorded 11,691 cases. In other words, the last 50 days has been the most dramatic in our journey to 100 days. But in all, what's the summary? There are three things the first 100 days has revealed. The first is that the data on the number of cases is a lagging indicator. Now, what do I mean by it's a lagging indicator? Let's take a look at what happened last month. A new galaxy was discovered. It was called R55, or it's called R5519. What the scientists described it as was a discovery. So the galaxy was always the Amarachi. They had only discovered it. And so what we're seeing with the number of new coronavirus cases is that the coronavirus cases or patients or individuals that have had this coronavirus have always been there. What is happening now is we're only being discovered. So it's really not a spike. We're just making a discovery. That's the first of the three things that we need to know about the 100 days. The second is that now we've tested 77,000 people in 100 days. But here's why this number is important. The NCDC, based on the Director General, their target is to test 2 million Nigerians by the end of next month. And going by our current running rate, our currently slow running rate, it means that we will not be able to get to 2 million tests by the end of July. If we do not change our current running rates, the arithmetic shows that we will only get to 2 million tests by May 2023. And finally, here's the third thing we should remember about the first 100 days. That's good news. 97% of those that have been reported to have the coronavirus in Nigeria are still alive, and that's some cheering news.
And I'm sure you have some outlook for the month of June, right?
Yes, so the outlook for May was accurate, but here's why I wouldn't put a bet on the outlook for June, and that's because in May, in April, we had only 11,000 samples. In May, we had 48,000 samples. And so we do not know how many samples the NCDC will test, will have in the month of June. Here's what we know. We know that 16% of all samples come out positive. And so my expectation in the month of June is between 16 to 18% of whatever number of samples are taken will come out as positive, because 16% has been a consistent number in the last 8 weeks.
And with the easing of restrictions now, you know that large gatherings, especially religious gatherings, have been allowed to hold of not more than 500 and so on. How much compliance should we expect? And then what figures can we expect, from this period of time that people will be allowed to gather in large numbers?
There's a story I'd have loved to share with you on how some sort of disobedience could be good news, but I'll share that with you later if we have some time. But here's my concern, and I'd like us to take a look at what is the probability that religious institutions will comply with the new guidelines. And here's what I found after going through the millions of files from the Corporate Affairs Commission and the National Bureau of Statistics. Their evidence shows that in Nigeria today we have 115,000 religious organizations that can be classified as micro, small, and medium. That is the evidence from the Corporate Affairs Commission. 115,000 faith-based organizations that are classified as micro, small, and medium. The challenge is less than 17,000 of these faith-based organizations are registered. In other words, only 15% of religious-based organizations are registered in Nigeria. So that gives us an idea on compliance. Again, you know what the former British Prime Minister David Lloyd George said? He said, loving your neighbor is not merely good Christianity, it is good business.
Babajide, always a pleasure speaking with you, and fingers crossed that things turn out well this month and that everyone complies, because right now our health is practically in our hands.
Oh, yes. But, you know, whatever consumes your mind in the next 30 days controls your life. So let's change the narrative and let people focus on some other good news that will control their mind, because then whatever controls your mind, as a wise man once said, controls your life.
Need to meet this wise man someday. Thanks again, Babajide, for joining us
The
on the
pleasure
News
is
at
all
10.
mine.